Hey guys, what's up? Scottish Tuck here once again. You know what? You know what the one of the hardest things about being on that hiatus was that I took? It was like beating a game or some sort of topic coming up and just like wanting to talk about it. You know, you wanting to get in front of the camera and just wail on and on about it. And I thought, it's the middle of the week, why not give you one of those little catch-up things right now? Okay. And one of the things I really wanted to do while I was away was to do a review slash thoughts on for this game, Tales of Hearts R for the Vita. Right, so if you're acquainted with me in any way, you know, you'll know that I'm a massive fan of the Tales of series. I got Zelia's Collector's Edition up there, and there's Mila. No, that's yes, that's Mila. Fuck's sake. But yeah, it's a series that, in fact, I've meant to do like a wee retrospective of it for the longest time, you know, talking about each game individually, because, yeah, I think I've played every game in the series that was released in English. Except Xillia 2. For some reason I skipped that. I can't wait for Tales of Zestiria. That's coming out. It's already out in Japan, it's going to come out in a few months for us here. I cannot wait for that. That will be amazing. But before Zestiria came out, we got Tales of Hearts R. History lesson. There was 3 Tales of games for the DS, released only in Japan. Those were Tales of the Tempest, which funnily enough was made by Dimps, the guys that did the Sonic Advance games and the Sonic Rush games. Whatever. But apparently it was shite. Okay, I'm just going by what I've heard. I've not played it. But there was 2 games that were considered main entries in the series. Those were Tales of Innocence and Tales of Hearts. And both games got remakes that were made on pretty much the same engine by the looks of it. And we got the latest one of those remakes, which is Tales of Hearts R. Now, I actually played Tales of Innocence on the DS. There was a fan translation floating about, and I got to play it like that. I don't think I'm a fan of that game, to be honest. Like, I can't remember a single thing that happened in it, right? If Tales of Innocence R is localized, I'll buy it, without a doubt. But as it stands now, it was kind of one of my least favourites. Now, there was a demo of Tales of Hearts for the DS, and I went onto it right after Tales of Innocence. I enjoyed that demo more than the entirety of Tales of Innocence. You know, that's how much of an impact it left on me. I don't know if that's how my brain was working at the time, because I knew it was Japan only and there was no way I would be able to play it, and therefore I put it in much higher regard than Tales of Innocence. I don't know, but it seemed so different. I mean, the entire game was in 2D. That's how the combat was done, the character sprites, and I really liked the look of it. So I was shocked to learn that in this remake, it actually takes on the sort of like more traditional Tales look, you know, fully 3D overworld, fully 3D combat, character models, all of that. You know, it's the exact same formula that you would see in like Symphonia, Vesperia, Abyss. It's only until very recently I feel that the Tales of series has tried to like fiddle about with their formula, mainly with Tales of Graces and Tales of Xillia, which, you know, I love those games. So, yeah, to see that I was a little bit disappointed right off the bat. You know, I was like, oh, I kind of liked the sprite work, really. But whatever, I was just glad to get the game in some form, you know. Excuse me. So, how does this game hold up in relation to the rest of the series? Well, all the Tales of games are really similar to each other, quite frankly. Like I said, it's only relatively recently that they've changed things up. Like, with Tales of Graces, it had a much more involving combat system, and in Tales of Xillia, they actually kind of went back to basics with the combat, but the overworld exploration was kind of changed up and done in a more interesting way, in my opinion, as well. This is definitely traditional though, as far as Tales goes. And honestly, I think it's one of my favourites in the series. Probably the top 3, maybe. There's definitely things I can say that I disliked about it, but the things I liked definitely outweigh those, you know? So, let's just off the top of my head, graphic-wise, I actually think it looks awful. Like, genuinely. I thought that when I first watched gameplay of these games, you know, Tales of Innocence as well. I don't know what it is, but Like, obviously in like Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Abyss, you know, the character models have always looked really stiff. You know, they would do the same like 5 animations over and over again during the cutscenes as voice played. And it's the same here. But I don't know, it's just like the environments look so bland. Everything's just... I don't know why. Visually, this game rubbed me the wrong way. And I've heard people actually praise the visual style for the Vita. Can't say I have. I've seen much better looking games on the Vita, you know. It's not just from a technical standpoint either, you know. Artistically, it's just there's not really much that's nice to look at. I don't even know. Because there's times in these games where one of the themes of the game, I guess you could say, is going into people's spira, they call it, which is basically their heart. And they're just these mazes made up of crystal and all that. And I remember being actually kind of blown away by the visual style when I played the DS demo, you know, a couple of years ago. But here it just looks bland. I don't know. But that's purely visual, okay? That doesn't matter that much in the long run. And it's not like it actually put me off. It just didn't, like, particularly impress me as well. Like I said, the gameplay is very traditional. You know, go from point A to point B. On an overworld, battle monsters, do a dungeon, etc, etc. You know, if you play the Tales of game, you know exactly what to expect. And that's what leads me to say why it is I like this one so much, right? Because all the Tales games are so similar, right? I don't necessarily rank them based on the merits of the game itself, but rather the cast of the game. You know, like, does anyone else feel like that? It's like, this game will be your favourite Tales of game because you like the characters so much. Because obviously, they're all going to be different. They might have, like, similar tropes and all that. But ultimately, good characters is what makes me stick around when I'm playing a Tales of game. That's actually Tales of Xillia. Like, I said that was one of my favourites earlier. But that's purely from a gameplay and, like, structure perspective, you know, like, the battle system's probably the best in that game and how the world is connected, you know, it's very well designed in that regard. But I really don't like the cast. I mean, I got Mila up there, but I didn't find Mila interesting in the slightest, honestly. Same with a bunch of the other cast members in the game. Tales of Hearts, though, despite some times where I actually thought I legitimately hated them, I love the cast, you know? You know, the main character, who, oddly enough, this actually, I should probably rant about this. The main character in this is called Core. In the Japanese version, he's called Shing, spelled with an X, I think, or SH, whatever. And you hear the Japanese, it's only got Japanese voices, you hear them calling him Shing, but he's called Core. And that threw me off so much, because I was already so used to referring to him as Shing, but it's like, Core? It's like, what? I don't know. But he's a pretty by-the-books JRPG hero, but he's likeable enough. And Koaku, the main lassie, you know, she's cool as well. She's actually got a pretty interesting story about her losing each one of her emotions and you having to go and collect them, and just, you actually grow quite attached to her through that. Then you've got, like, Koaku's brother, Hisyu. He has a hard name to pronounce, that's him there on the bottom. I hated him at first, like, I nearly stopped playing the game because I hated him so much, because he was that fucking obnoxious, you know? It's like, everything that would happen in a cutscene, right? It got to the point where you were just expecting, oh, Hisu's gonna come in and say something stupid, or hit someone, or that. He was just so annoying. He was just so annoying, and I was convinced. I even said this on Twitter at the time when I was playing through this. I said that, like, oh, there's no way this character's gonna turn around. There's no way I'm gonna start liking him. I hate him to death. By the end of the game, he did sort of turn around and I sort of cared about him. You know, it's hard for me to forget how much I despised him at first, but by the end of the game I was like, okay, I care. I care, you know? Which I was just so surprised at. And yeah, all the other characters are really good as well. I'll mention that this game has 2 new characters that were exclusive to this Vita version. One was a completely new character, and he really does feel like it. He doesn't have any bearing on the story at all. I think his name was Gal, I believe. But the other character who I do want to talk about is Sudani. Now, Sudani, he was like, I really want to talk about this, okay? Sudani was apparently like the rival character in the DS version, okay? And you never got to play as him, but they decided to make him playable in this one. And he was by far my favourite character, right? Because not only was he just a good balance of, you know, anti-hero meets, you know, just wanting to do the right thing. You know, like, he had his honor, as you would typically get in an anti-hero, but he never ever went too far with it. You know, he was never like, I'm going to do this thing that I know is bad, but I'm going to do it because I'm bound by my honor. You know, he just wouldn't do it. And it wasn't just like, it never came off as stupid or anything, but rather, you would have a lot of fun with him in a comedic sense. You know, he would always, like, there's a running joke about him being like a big baby or something, you know, and he always needs people to look after him and that, and I did find that so funny that as I was going through the game. And there's one moment, right, I'll no spoil it, but for everybody who's played this game, please comment and tell me you felt the same. There is something that happens to him in this game, right? It involves him getting his nappy changed when he was a baby, okay? That scene, when it happened, I've never, like, cried so much, but at the same time laughed so much at something in a long time, you know? It was just like, emotionally, it just made me so sad, because I felt so sorry for him, but it was also so hilariously funny, because it is like one of the worst things that could happen to a man. But it happens to him, and it's just funny. You know, it's like, did anybody feel like that? Like, if you played the game, you'll know the moment I'm talking about. It was fucking hilarious, and it shouldn't be, it really, really shouldn't be, because it makes it sound like I'm undermining the rest of the game, but that was the highlight for me. That moment. It was worth playing for that. One of my favourite moments in the entire series, and you're all user have played it thinking, but that was just a stupid little joke. Well, not to me. To me, it was comedic gold, and this is one of the reasons why I love this series so much, you know. But yeah, I know I'm talking a lot about the characters, but again, that's what I dig about these games, you know. And one last thing I'll say is that there was this character called Lithia, who is with your party for the whole game, right? And there's a total of 8 playable characters in this game, and this is just something I noticed. The boy-girl ratio is 5-3, and it's usually quite even when it comes to the Tales of games, and I'm actually just wondering, you know, why didn't they make this Lithia lassie playable at some point? Because, again, she's with you the whole time, and they could have easily just thrown in some weapon for her to use, and boof, she's suddenly playable, but they never do. I thought that was weird, but again, that's just a little nitpick, you know. Probably the only other thing I could really say that's relatively negative, and yeah, this is going to be a very personal thing, but the game definitely takes a lot of liberties. What do I mean by that? Let me try to explain, okay? Have you ever, like, played a JRPG, watched an anime, film, whatever, and, you know, the mood will be bleak, you know, the mood will be like, oh, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, something happens. Usually a speech by one of the main characters. You know, they'll get up, the music will start building up, and something, all of a sudden, the mood changes, like, on a fly, you know? And even though all the characters in that universe are convinced because they just heard this speech, or whatever it was that just happened, you, as the audience member, are just like, that was rushed, you know? That happens, kind of. There was a couple of moments like that in this game. Not just in the scenario I just described, but just, you know, there's things that sort of happen, and you know what the desired effect of it is, but you're not convinced that they put it across really well. Like just as another example, there's a moment where you see this lassie, and she's being a total bitch to another lassie who she's just kidnapped. And in the midst of being a total bitch to this other lassie, she's suddenly like, oh, okay, let me give you a handkerchief, and she loans her a handkerchief. And it's at that moment, it's at that very moment that the handkerchief is lent that you're like, oh, I see, they're trying to get across that this lassie is not a bitch, but she's actually really nice because she loaned this handkerchief to someone. When she's not. She was being a bitch, and she just lends the handkerchief, but then, boof, you're just supposed to believe. And I'm really, really rambling, I know. It's just a personal thing, you know, I just noticed it, I just thought I'd point it out. So, but either way, I fucking love this game, like I said, maybe in the top 3. I don't think it tops Tales of the Abyss and Tales of Graces for me. Those are my 2 absolute favourites, you know, I love the cast in those games, you know. Including Asbel. I hear a lot of hate for Asbel from Tales of Graces, I don't know why, I think he's fine. But yeah, it's also compatible with the Vita TV, so if you want to buy that, you can play it on that, on your PS4. Does it also work on the PS3? I don't know. But yeah, and if Tales of Innocence ever comes out, I'll definitely get that as well. But for now, bring on the Tales of Zestiria hype. That's what I'm waiting for. So yeah, that's that, guys. See you after. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.